Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Business English for Success, where we help you improve your English for real workplace communication.
Hi, everyone. Today, we're talking about something that almost every professional needs to do at some point in their career.
Yes, today's topic is how to talk about your work experience in English.
This is important when you're in a job interview, meeting new colleagues, talking with clients, networking, or simply introducing your professional background.
Many English learners know exactly what they do at work, but when someone asks, "Can you tell me about your work experience?" they're not always sure how to explain it clearly in English.
They might say, I worked in sales for 5 years, or I have experience in accounting. Those answers give us some information, but there's much more we can say about our professional experience.
Exactly. We can talk about how long we've worked in a field, the roles we've had, our main responsibilities, the skills we've developed, what we've achieved, and how our career has progressed.
So today, we'll look at useful language for each of these areas and practice putting everything together into a clear, natural description of your work experience.
Let's start with how long you've worked in your field. There are several natural ways to express this.
For example, you could say, I have 5 years of experience in sales.
Or, "I've worked in sales for 5 years."
You could also say, I've been working in sales for the past 5 years.
These sentences are similar, but notice what each one emphasizes. "I have 5 years of experience in sales" focuses on the amount of experience you have.
I've worked in sales for 5 years tells us how long you've worked in that field and works well when you're giving someone an overview of your professional background.
And "I've been working in sales for the past 5 years" emphasizes that this has been an ongoing part of your career.
You can also make your answer more specific by adding the type of work or industry you've been involved in.
For example, instead of only saying, "I have 8 years of experience in finance," you could say, "I have 8 years of experience in finance, mainly in banking and financial operations."
Or, I've worked in marketing for about 6 years, mostly with technology companies.
Another useful expression is, "my background is in." This works well when you want to describe the main area of your professional experience.
For example, my background is in customer service and account management.
Or, "my background is mainly in supply chain and logistics."
And if your experience covers more than one area, you can connect them naturally. My background is in finance, but I've also worked in business operations and project coordination.
That tells us much more than simply giving a job title.
Right. We now know how long you've worked, where most of your experience comes from, and the areas you've worked in.
Now let's add the next important piece, the roles you've had and what you actually did in those roles. Your job title is a good place to start. You might say, "I currently work as a project coordinator," or "I worked as a customer service supervisor for 3 years." If you want to talk about a previous position, you can also say, "In my previous role, I worked as an operations specialist."
But your job title alone doesn't always tell people very much. Two people can have the same title and do very different work.
That's why it helps to explain your main responsibilities. One useful expression is, "I'm responsible for." For example, "I'm responsible for managing customer accounts and handling client requests." Or, "I'm responsible for preparing financial reports and monitoring monthly expenses." Another useful expression is, "My main responsibilities include." My main responsibilities include coordinating deliveries, working with suppliers, and tracking inventory. Notice that you don't need to describe everything you do during a normal working day. Focus on the responsibilities that best explain your role. You can also use "I mainly focus on" when you want to describe the main area of your work. "I mainly focus on digital marketing and content strategy." Or, "I mainly focus on customer support and account management." And sometimes your work involves collaborating with other people or departments. In that case, "I work closely with" is very useful. For example,
I work closely with the sales and marketing teams to support new product launches.
Or I work closely with clients to understand their needs and resolve any issues.
Now let's see how these expressions can work together.
Imagine you work in logistics. You could say, I currently work as a logistics coordinator. I'm responsible for arranging shipments and tracking deliveries. I also work closely with suppliers and our warehouse team to make sure orders arrive on time.
Or imagine you work in human resources. I work as an HR specialist. My main responsibilities include recruitment, onboarding, and employee support. I also work closely with department managers when they're hiring new team members.
Now compare that with simply saying, I work in HR.
The longer answer gives someone a much clearer picture of your actual experience.
And if you've had several roles during your career, you don't have to describe every job in detail. You can focus on the roles that are most relevant to the conversation.
For example, I started my career in customer service and later moved into account management. In my current role, I manage a portfolio of corporate clients and work with our internal teams to support their business needs.
That tells us not only what the person does now, but also how their experience has developed.
Let's put what we've learned so far together. Earlier, we started with,
I have 8 years of experience in finance, mainly in banking and financial operations.
Now we can add, I currently work as an operations specialist. My main responsibilities include monitoring daily transactions, preparing operational reports, and coordinating with different teams to resolve issues.
Put those together, and you already have a much stronger description of your professional background. I have 8 years of experience in finance, mainly in banking and financial operations. I currently work as an operations specialist. My main responsibilities include monitoring daily transactions, preparing operational reports, and coordinating with different teams to resolve issues.
but describing what you do is only part of your work experience. Over time, you also develop knowledge and skills that become an important part of what you can bring to a role.
So next, let's look at how to talk about the skills and strengths you've developed through your experience.
When people talk about their skills, they often use short descriptions like, I'm good at communication, I'm organized, or I'm good at problem solving.
Those expressions are useful, but when you're describing your work experience, you can say more about how you developed those skills and how you use them at work.
One useful expression is, through this experience, I've developed strong skills in.
For example, through this experience, I've developed strong skills in customer communication and problem solving.
Or, through my work in finance, I've developed strong analytical and reporting skills.
Another natural way to describe something you've become good at is I've become particularly good at.
For example, I've become particularly good at explaining complex information in a clear way.
Or I've become particularly good at managing multiple priorities and meeting tight deadlines.
You can also connect a skill directly to the work that helped you develop it.
For example, working with different clients has helped me develop strong communication skills.
Or, managing several projects at the same time has helped me become much more organized.
This is especially useful because you're not only telling someone what your strength is, you're showing where that strength comes from.
Let's take another example. Imagine you've worked in customer service for several years.
You could simply say, I have good problem-solving skills.
But you could make that more meaningful. Working with customers every day has taught me how to understand problems quickly and find practical solutions.
Or, over the years, I've become very comfortable handling difficult customer issues and finding solutions that work for both the customer and the company.
Now imagine you work in project management.
You might say, managing projects with different teams has helped me develop strong coordination and time management skills.
And if you work in finance,
Working with financial data has helped me develop strong attention to detail and analytical skills.
There's another useful way to talk about your strengths, especially when one area has become an important part of your experience.
You can say, one of my strengths is,
For example, one of my strengths is working with people from different departments.
Or, one of my strengths is staying organized when I'm managing several priorities at the same time.
Notice that these examples are more specific than simply saying, I'm a good communicator or I'm hardworking.
They help the other person understand what that strength actually looks like in your work.
And you don't need to mention every skill you have. Choose the ones that are closely connected to the experience you're describing.
Let's go back to our finance example and continue building the answer.
So far, I have 8 years of experience in finance, mainly in banking and financial operations. I currently work as an operations specialist. My main responsibilities include monitoring daily transactions, preparing operational reports, and coordinating with different teams to resolve issues.
Now let's add what this experience has helped you develop. Through this experience, I've developed strong analytical and problem-solving skills. I've also become very comfortable working with different teams and handling issues that require careful attention to detail.
Now we know more than where this person has worked and what they do. We're beginning to understand what they've become good at because of that experience.
But there's still an important question we haven't answered.
What has that experience actually allowed you to accomplish or contribute at work?
Maybe you improved a process, helped solve an important problem, supported a successful project, trained new colleagues, improved customer service, or took on greater responsibility.
Those are the experiences that can make your professional background much more meaningful.
So next, let's look at how to talk about your achievements and contributions in English. When people hear the word achievement, they sometimes think it has to be something big, winning an award, leading a major project, or increasing sales by a large percentage. But an achievement can also be something practical that made a difference in your work.
Maybe you improved a process, solved a recurring problem, helped your team complete an important project, trained new employees, built strong client relationships, or took on more responsibility.
One useful way to introduce an achievement is, one thing I'm particularly proud of is.
For example, one thing I'm particularly proud of is helping my team improve our customer response time.
Or, one thing I'm particularly proud of is helping to develop a new onboarding process for new employees.
You can also use I had the opportunity to when you want to talk about an important experience or responsibility you were given.
For example, I had the opportunity to train several new team members.
Or, I had the opportunity to work on a major system implementation project.
Another useful expression is, I played a key role in.
For example, I played a key role in improving our monthly reporting process.
Or, I played a key role in coordinating the launch of a new customer service program.
But choose this expression carefully. I played a key role means your contribution was important. If you were supporting the project rather than leading an important part of it, you could simply say, I was involved in.
For example, I was involved in a project to improve our internal reporting system.
Or, I was involved in the rollout of a new software system across the company.
This helps you describe your contribution accurately without making it sound bigger than it really was.
And when you do have a clear result, add it. That makes your experience more specific.
For example, I helped redesign our customer follow-up process, which reduced response times and made it easier for the team to track open requests.
Or, I created a new reporting template that made our monthly reports easier to prepare and review.
If you have a number that clearly shows the result, you can use it too.
For example, I helped reduce processing time by around 20%.
Or,
I managed a portfolio of more than 50 client accounts.
But you don't need to invent a number just to make an achievement sound impressive. A clear explanation of what you did and what changed because of it can be just as useful.
Let's look at the difference. You could say, I helped improve our reporting process.
That tells us what you contributed.
But if you have more information, you could say, I helped improve our reporting process by creating a standard template that made the reports easier for different teams to prepare and review.
Now we understand both what you did and why it mattered.
The same idea works in many different jobs.
If you work in customer service, I helped resolve a recurring customer issue by working with our operations team to identify the cause and improve the process.
If you work in sales, I built strong relationships with several key clients and helped maintain those accounts over the long term.
If you work in administration, I reorganized our document management system, which made important files easier for the team to find.
And if you've trained or supported colleagues, I've trained several new team members and helped them become familiar with our procedures and systems.
So when you think about your own experience, don't only ask, what big achievement do I have?
Think about the problems you've helped solve, the processes you've improved, the people you've supported, the responsibilities you've taken on, and the results you've helped create.
Let's add this to the professional background we've been building.
So far, I have 8 years of experience in finance, mainly in banking and financial operations. I currently work as an operations specialist. My main responsibilities include monitoring daily transactions, preparing operational reports, and coordinating with different teams to resolve issues.
Then we added, through this experience, I've developed strong analytical and problem-solving skills. I've also become very comfortable working with different teams and handling issues that require careful attention to detail.
Now we can add a contribution. One thing I'm particularly proud of is helping improve our daily reporting process. I worked with the team to create a clearer reporting format, which made it easier to identify and follow up on operational issues.
Now we're no longer just listing jobs, responsibilities, and skills. We're showing how that experience has created value.
And there's one more part that can make your professional story much clearer: how your career has changed and developed over time.
Maybe you moved into a different field, took on more responsibility, were promoted, or gradually started working on more complex tasks.
So next, let's look at how to talk about your career progression and professional growth. When you describe your work experience, you don't always want to talk about just one job. Sometimes you want to explain how your career has developed over several years. A useful place to begin is, I started my career in.
For example, I started my career in customer service.
Or, I started my career in accounting and later moved into corporate finance.
The expression moved into is useful when you change to a different role or area of work.
For example, after 3 years in sales, I moved into account management.
Or I started in a technical role and later moved into project management.
If your career developed within the same area, you can talk about how your responsibilities changed.
One useful expression is, over time, I took on more responsibility.
For example, I started as a customer service representative, and over time, I took on more responsibility for handling key accounts and supporting new team members.
Here, take on more responsibility means you became responsible for more important or more complex work.
You can also be more specific about what changed. As I gained more experience, I started handling larger clients and more complex projects.
Or, as I gained more experience, I became responsible for training new employees and supporting the rest of the team.
Another common career change is a promotion.
In that case, you could say, after 2 years, I was promoted to team leader.
Or you can connect the two roles.
I joined the company as a sales representative and was later promoted to sales supervisor.
But professional growth doesn't always mean getting a new job title or a promotion.
Your role can grow even when your title stays the same.
You might start working with more important clients, become responsible for more complex tasks, learn a new area of the business, or become someone your colleagues regularly turn to for support.
For example, my title stayed the same, but over time, I became responsible for more complex customer cases and started helping newer members of the team.
Or, as I gained experience, I became more involved in planning and coordination, rather than only handling day-to-day tasks.
If you've changed industries, you can explain that transition too.
For example, I spent the first 5 years of my career in retail, and then I moved into the technology industry, where I began working in customer success.
And if some of your earlier experience is still useful in your current work, you can connect the two. My experience in retail taught me a lot about customer communication, which has been very useful in my current role in customer success.
That helps the listener understand that a career change doesn't necessarily mean starting from zero. Skills and experience from an earlier role can still be valuable in a new one.
Another useful expression is more recently I've been focusing on.
This is a natural way to bring your career story up to the present. More recently, I've been focusing on project coordination and process improvement.
Or, more recently, I've been working more closely with international clients.
Now let's see how these expressions can help us describe a career that has developed over time.
Imagine someone who started in customer service and later moved into account management.
They could say, I started my career in customer service, where I worked directly with customers and handled day-to-day requests. After a few years, I moved into account management and began working with larger business clients. As I gained more experience, I took on responsibility for several key accounts. More recently, I've been focusing on building long-term client relationships and coordinating with internal teams to support their needs.
Notice that this doesn't sound like someone reading a list of jobs from a resume.
It shows how one stage of the person's career led to the next.
Let's return to the finance example we've been building throughout the lesson.
We already know this person has 8 years of experience in finance, mainly in banking and financial operations.
Now we can explain how that experience developed. I started my career in customer-facing banking operations. As I gained more experience, I took on greater responsibility for transaction processing, operational reporting, and resolving more complex issues. Over time, I also began working more closely with different teams to improve daily processes. More recently, I've been focusing on operational efficiency and problem solving.
Now we have something much more complete.
We know where the person started, what they've done, what skills they've developed, what they've contributed, and how their responsibilities have changed over time.
But there's one more thing that matters when you talk about your work experience.
You probably won't give exactly the same answer every time.
If you're introducing yourself to a new colleague, you may only need a few sentences. In a job interview, you may want to give more detail. And when you're networking, you may want to focus on the experience that is most relevant to the person you're speaking with.
So now, let's put everything together and see how to talk about your work experience naturally in different professional situations. The important thing to remember is that you don't need to tell your entire career story every time someone asks about your experience. What you include depends on who you're talking to, why they're asking, and what they need to know about you.
Let's start with a situation many professionals are familiar with, a job interview.
The interviewer might ask, "Could you tell me about your work experience?"
Here, you usually want to give enough detail to show your background, your responsibilities, and the value of your experience.
For example,
Sure. I have about 8 years of experience in finance, mainly in banking and financial operations.
I started my career in customer-facing banking operations and gradually took on more responsibility for transaction processing, reporting, and resolving complex operational issues. Through this experience, I've developed strong analytical and problem-solving skills, as well as a good understanding of day-to-day banking operations. I've also been involved in several process improvements, including helping to improve our daily reporting process. More recently, I've been focusing on operational efficiency and working across teams to resolve issues more effectively.
Notice what this answer does.
It doesn't describe every job the person has ever had. It gives the listener a clear picture of the person's background, the work they've done, the skills they've developed, and how their experience has grown.
And in a real interview, you can adjust the details depending on the position you're applying for.
If the job requires a lot of client communication, talk more about your client experience. If the role focuses on operations, emphasize your operational responsibilities and problem-solving experience.
In other words, you don't need to give the same answer in every interview. Focus on the experience that is most relevant to the role.
Now, let's look at a different situation.
Imagine it's your first week at a new company, and a colleague asks, "So, what did you do before joining us?"
This is a more casual conversation, so you probably don't need a long answer.
You could say,
I worked in customer service for about 5 years, mostly in the technology industry. I started out supporting individual customers and later moved into business accounts. Toward the end, I was working mainly with larger clients and helping resolve more complex issues.
that's enough to give your colleague a good idea of your background without turning a casual conversation into a job interview.
And notice the language here. It's still professional, but the answer feels more conversational.
Now, imagine you're at a networking event or professional conference. Someone asks,
What kind of work do you do?
Here, you usually want to give a shorter answer that gives the other person something interesting to continue the conversation with. For example, my background is mainly in supply chain and logistics. I've worked in the field for about 7 years, and these days I focus mostly on supplier coordination and improving delivery processes.
That answer is short, but it gives the other person several things they could ask about.
They might ask about logistics, suppliers, your industry, or the kind of process improvements you work on.
That's useful in networking because the goal isn't to give a complete professional history. It's to start a meaningful conversation.
Let's look at one more situation. Meeting a client or business partner for the first time. Imagine someone asks, "Have you worked with this type of project before?"
Now, the most useful answer is not necessarily your entire work history. You want to focus on the experience that gives the other person confidence that you understand the work.
For example, yes, I've worked on several similar projects over the past 4 years. Most of my experience has been in coordinating with clients and internal teams, managing timelines, and making sure issues are resolved before they affect delivery. I was also involved in a similar implementation project last year, so I'm familiar with many of the challenges that can come up.
Here, the person selects only the experience that matters to the client.
Exactly. And that brings us to an important point.
Talking about your work experience well doesn't mean saying everything you've ever done.
It means choosing the parts of your experience that help the other person understand who you are professionally and why your background is relevant to the conversation.
Let's compare 3 answers to see how this works.
If someone asks casually, "What do you do?" You might say, "I work in digital marketing. I've been in the field for about 6 years, mainly working on content and social media campaigns."
If a recruiter asks, "Can you tell me about your experience?" you could give more detail. I have about 6 years of experience in digital marketing, mainly in content strategy and social media. I started as a content specialist and later took on responsibility for planning campaigns and coordinating with designers and external partners. Over the years, I've developed strong project coordination and analytical skills, and I've worked on several campaigns that helped increase customer engagement.
And if a potential client asks, "Have you worked with companies in our industry?" you might focus only on that. Yes,
I've worked with several companies in the technology sector, mainly on content and social media campaigns. One of my recent projects involved launching a new digital campaign for a software company, so I'm familiar with communicating technical products to a broader audience.
Same professional, same career.
But 3 different answers because the purpose of the conversation is different.
Now, let's return to the question we started with at the beginning of this lesson. Can you tell me about your work experience?
At the beginning, you might have answered with something like, I worked in sales for 5 years.
There's nothing wrong with that sentence, but now you have many more ways to explain what those 5 years actually mean.
You can talk about how long you've worked in the field, the roles you've had, your responsibilities, the skills you've developed, the contributions you've made, and how your career has changed over time.
And you can choose how much of that information to use depending on the conversation.
Exactly. You don't need to include everything every time. The goal is to choose the details that help the other person understand your professional background clearly.
So the next time someone asks, can you tell me about your work experience? Instead of stopping at, I worked in sales for 5 years, you can give them a much clearer picture of what you've actually done.
You might talk about your experience, your role, the responsibilities you've handled, the skills you've developed, or something you've contributed.
And remember, your answer can change depending on the situation. A quick introduction might only take a few sentences. In an interview, you may want to give more detail.
The best way to get comfortable with this is to practice using your real work experience.
So here's one question to take with you after this lesson. Can you tell me about your work experience?
Try answering it in your own words. And if you'd like, share a short version of your answer in the comments.
Thanks for practicing with us today.
If you found this lesson useful, subscribe to Business English for Success for more practical English for work and professional communication.
Keep practicing, and we'll see you in the next lesson.
See you next time.